The 700 acres of the Blandy Experimental Farm was donated to the University of Virginia by Graham Blandy in 1926. It became the State Arboretum of Virginia in 1986. Today, the historic grounds of the Arboretum feature the largest collection of conifer trees in the Southeast, are home to the American Boxwood Association, and have a huge grove of 300 ginkgo trees, a unique research project dating back to the 1930s. 190 people turned out for the inaugural Ginkgo Festival in November.
They come out in such numbers nowadays that we have to plan weeks and weeks ahead of time about how to handle the traffic. It's always been difficult to plan an event around the ginkgo color because predicting exactly when they're going to hit peak color is hard because it varies from year to year depending on what kind of weather we get in the fall. They were pretty green last weekend. We had Peter Crane, who's one of the world experts on ginkgo, give a presentation and people just loved it.
By the way, the original ginkgo experiment was to determine what proportion of ginkgo seeds would mature into male or female trees, and it turns out the ratio is about 50-50. For decades, Blandy Experimental Farm was closed to the public, but in 1982 it was opened as a public garden by former director Dr. Ed Connor. The Arboretum was originally intended to be a farm where young men could learn about agriculture. Since Virginia's two land-grant universities already had that mission, the University of Virginia's Department of Biology hired the first director, Orland White, to head a plant genetics program instead. The Ginkgo Grove is just one of the many long-term research programs that he started.
Nowadays, when you think of a plant geneticist, you probably think of somebody that works with DNA sequencing. But of course, in the 1920s, nobody knew that DNA was held the genetic code, but we did know that the genes were located on chromosomes, and Orland White studied chromosomes. But in order to study chromosomes, he needed live plant material. And so he began to import plants from all over the world for his research collection. To me, one of the amazing things about Orland White was that if I were creating a research collection, it would probably look like an orchard with all the trees grown in nice straight lines. But instead, he landscaped the property with his research collection. And it's that research collection that we know today as the State Arboretum of Virginia.
One unique aspect of the Arboretum is that it's open to visitors 365 days a year. They can stroll through hundreds of acres of tree plantings, visit some of the state's champion trees, or even take a slow drive through the main plantings. Undergraduate researchers from across the nation typically spend the summer at the Arboretum, studying everything from bumblebee foraging patterns to how plants evolve and respond to different soil environments. Carr says over the years their missions evolved from pure science to blending both their public outreach and research programs.
In the summer, there are over 30 researchers who spend the summer up here, faculty from the University of Virginia, graduate students from the University of Virginia, undergraduates from all over the country, and faculty from the University of Virginia and other universities spend their summer doing research here.
The Arboretum also hosts a number of summer camps where undergraduate students can get practical teaching experience.
An important feature of that project is science communication. And so during the summer, we run a summer camp for young kids. And all of our undergraduate students, everybody who is part of this REU program, Research Experience for Undergraduates program, does a presentation for the kids. They spend an entire day and they're challenged to think about their research project and figure out how it might relate to a little kid. And they spend the morning doing an activity with those kids that's related to their own research project.
From the early plant material studies to today's park-like atmosphere, the State Arboretum offers a unique blend of research. Volunteers help tend many of the public spaces, while others raise funds for outreach and educational programs. There's even a horse trail, and leashed pets are welcome. It's definitely not your typical science lab.
Most of the world is made up of non-scientists, but we feel strongly that science impacts everyone, and the health of science in this country really depends on support from people. And so we feel that it's really important for us to communicate our science to people, to make people educated about the role of science in their lives, because we want their support.
To learn more about the dual missions of the State Arboretum of Virginia or to plan a visit blandy.virginia.edu. In Clarke County, Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde reporting.